Hi y'all, welcome to TJ Trinity Studios, where we are always plugged into the matrix of entertainment. It is midnight, so we're behind on our videos. We just got done filming the random day, and sorry it's behind today because I got in a severe writing zone and went down a rabbit hole that I shouldn't have went down so far, and I couldn't get out of it. So, at any rate, we are back and we are doing story time, and since it's midnight, the creepy kind of witching hour, well actually 3 a.m. supposedly the witching hour now, but at any rate,
technically it should be 7:56.
Huh?
Or no, 6:56.
Okay, whatever.
Wait, no, yeah, 7:56, because that'd be 7, and then an hour. Wait, hold up, no.
What
Never
are
mind.
you talking
Never mind.
about?
There's a certain time where if you look at the actual, like, numbers, it'll spell out 666.
Oh. I have no idea. Anyway, we're gonna read All Hallows Eve by Vivian Van de Velt. I might have pronounced that wrong. My bad. Sorry. Anyway, we're gonna read this. We're gonna read a couple stories out of this. Come in and rest a spell. Don't be shy. Don't be afraid. Come in. Granny doesn't bite. See, Granny hardly has any teeth left. I couldn't bite if I wanted to. Are you nervous because it's All Hallows Eve? This is a spooky night. The dead walk, witches convey. A door opens between the worlds of the seen and the world of the unseen, and sometimes the doors let all sorts of evil unto the earth. No, don't leave. I'm just telling stories, silly old granny that I am. The night is cold and dark, and you've walked so far to get here, and I just want to help you. Eye of newt, mandrake root, tear of a pity from a heartless soul. Granny is good at helping people. No one ever has complained. Let me guess what you need. You're such a pretty young thing, with skin so soft and smooth, your hair thick and dark, your eyes clear, your limbs firm and strong. You even have all your teeth. Lucky you. Granny misses her teeth. What a girl like you possibly need. What keeps you from being happy? Is there sickness in your family? No. Don't answer. Granny is guessing, and Granny would have guessed even before you shook your head that you don't have to look for someone dealing with that particular sorrow. Are you needing money to survive? No, you're too beautiful. You have done without meals, or to be having no place to lay your head. Is there someone who has crossed you? Someone you want to put a curse on? Maybe, but Granny thinks you probably know how to get back at people, so you wouldn't need magic for that. Granny guesses she sees the light in your eyes, not fever or hunger or the thought of revenge. Granny guesses it's love. Granny guesses you're in love with a boy who doesn't love you back. See, Granny's good at this. Granny can help. Wing of bat, tooth of rat, water that someone has drowned in. Is he handsome? Is he rich? Oh yes, Granny knows the young man you mean. Granny thinks he's a fine choice. If Granny were younger, she'd want him for herself. Granny has just put a spell to bind him to you. Granny must mix this and a little bit of this. Yes, it smells bad, but just what you need. Drink it all. All. Yes, every last bit. He will love your face and your form and your voice and the way you move. To be happy, he will need to see your eyes, to hear your laugh, ha 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 ha, to smell your scent, to touch your skin, to taste your lips. To be happy, he will need your happiness. He will find completeness only in you. Stain of blood, graveyard mud, dying breath of a murdered man. You may feel lightheaded. Oops, Granny warned you. Here, take my hands. Granny will hold you steady while the spell works its way through. Yes, you're perfectly right. He needs to drink it down, the potion that will tie him to you. Or I say you to your beautiful, healthy young body. I'll make sure he drinks that. I put a spell. The spell I just did, that lets us trade you and Granny. Don't struggle, it's no use. You only bruise your beautiful skin. Our beautiful skin. Do you feel your limbs growing sore and weak? Do you recognize your features forming on me? It's no use screaming. Granny's the only one who can hear you. Fine then, be that way. Let go of my hands. Too late now anyway. Oh, Granny sees you're not too much recoiling from me as convulsing from the poison. Did I forget to mention the poison? I can't very well have you complaining about me. Granny has never had any complaints. You just go ahead and lie there on the floor. It won't be much longer and the pain won't get much worse. You go see your young man. He and I will be very happy together. And if we're not, I have a spell for that too. Marianne. Justin saw the sign that said speed limit 8 miles per hour. Hold up. 8 miles per hour?
You can walk faster than that.
I've never seen a speed limit
I can walk faster than that.
8 miles per hour. And he saw the sign that said speed bump. He wasn't a wimp, so he didn't slow down. He didn't know why they even bothered putting numbers lower than 20 on the speedometer. Anyway, there was driving and there was parking, and as far as Justin was concerned, 30 miles per hour was the cutoff between the two. Even in an apartment complex, there was no need for such exaggerated care. They should give people credit. Anyone backing out of a parking space would know enough to look before pulling into the lane. And yeah, sure, there were kids. There were enough signs warning kids at play, but any kid who lived in the apartment complex grew up knowing you play on the grass, not the pavement. Besides, it was past 11 o'clock at night, even on Halloween. That was later than the time the kids should be out roaming and looking for opportunities to dart in front of cars. Besides all that, Justin figured he was a better than average driver and was opposed to. For example, his parents' generation, his reflexes were honed by years of playing computer games. And on top of everything else, adding bumps to the driving surface seemed not only counterintuitive, but an efferent to civilized society. Wow, those were really hard words to pronounce. Okay, so I have a hard time pronouncing some words. So when he saw the speed bump sign, he figured he could slow down to a crawl and ease the car over it, thump thump front wheels, thump thump back wheels, or he could hit it fast enough that his car would momentarily become airborne and sail right over the obstruction in one smooth move. I'm down for the second one. If there's nobody around, why not? Except you mess up the bottom of your car and yeah. Now, if you had a car like the General League, hell yeah, Dukes of Hazzard that. You'd just be like, boom, 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 boom. Anyway, back to what I was saying. He perfected this technique in his own apartment complex, but this night he'd been visiting Andrea, whose party had turned out to be as lame as kindergarten once her parents had come home earlier than expected from helping Grandma hand out Halloween goodies in the building. The speed bumps in his complex were taller, wider, and steeper, or something different from what he was used to. His car went up, then bottomed out with the force that he felt all the way up his spine into his teeth. The car was second-hand and more likely third, or fourth, or fifth-hand, and had lousy springs. One of the warning lights flickered. Check engine. Car ajar. Fasten seatbelts. It was gone too fast to know which it had been, and something seemed to have rattled loose in the dashboard. See? Just as I said, his whole car bottomed out. He probably should have picked choice number 1 then. To every choice, there's either a reward or a consequence. Apparently, this is a consequence. It was gone too fast to know which it had been, and something seemed to have rattled loose in the dashboard. There was a noise like static, as though the radio were coming on between stations. This didn't seem likely, as the radio hadn't worked since September, since about 5 minutes after Justin gave the guy the money for the car.
Dang.
Dang is right. He got a lemon. You knew you were pathetic when you bought a car a college kid was dumping. Wait. I read that wrong. You knew you were pathetic when you bought a car a college kid was dumping. But Justin turned the volume dial up anyway. A sexy female voice said, "This is Mary Ann. Mobile and regional interactive assistant navigation. How may I help you?" Justin took his hand away from the radio dial so he could turn the steering wheel as he pulled out of Andrea's apartment complex and onto the street. He expected that whatever radio program he'd happened upon, the law of probability indicated it would be a commercial, would continue. But it didn't. The face of the radio wasn't lit up, and he wondered if two wires had made momentary contact during the jostling, only to disconnect again. Still, Justin was an optimist, and he turned the volume knob up a bit higher. Then he changed the station to see if anything came in. Slightly louder, the voice repeated, "This is Mary Ann. Mobile and regional interactive assistant navigation. How may I help you?" The most logical explanation was still a commercial. Just his luck to get the same commercial on two different stations. But Justin repeated softly, even though there was no one to hear him making a fool of himself. "Mary Ann?" The voice asked. "What's your destination?" Feeling like an idiot, Justin again said, "Mary Ann." The voice said, "Mobile and regional interactive assistant navigation." Just when it seemed the conversation was doomed to go in circles forever, the voice added, "This system is similar to a GPS, but with higher interactive capability." A voice activated global positioning system. The college kid certainly had not said anything about a built-in GPS. He had pointed out there was a CD player without mentioning it was so motion sensitive it was useless. There was an air conditioning, but it took about an hour and a half to cool down the car. Obviously the GPS had stopped working, a loose something or other which the speed bump had repositioned. But it probably still didn't work properly. That would be too much to ask for. Marianne? Huh? Justin asked. Still not believing, he went on. If you're so smart, where am I? The voice, Marianne, authenticated each word distinctively, but didn't have the synthesized sound to it at all. More likely a slight, prissy English teacher than a mechanical device. It was hard to know how to think of the thing. She said, you are... Oh, I gotta think of an English teacher. You are in the town of Waverly in the country of Lancaster in New York State. You are traveling 67 miles per hour going eastbound on Church Street between Cricket Hill Lane and Ferguson Road. Would you like latitude and longitude? Justin let up the gas and slowed down just enough to read the upcoming street sign. 60 miles per hour, the voice amended. 65, 64. Sure enough, he saw the sign. It said Ferguson Road. The GPS may not have been working before, but it sure was working now. Nah, Justin said. No latitude or longitude, and you don't need to keep telling me my speed. You sound like my mother. The Marianne system does not mean to criticize your driving. The Marianne system was simply reporting statistics. Okay, statistics. It was a...
About dropped.
Huh?
About dropped the phone.
It was a good thing the college kid who sold him the car hadn't known the GPS was so easily fixed, or he would have charged even more. As the car had almost 100,000 miles on it, Justin already felt he had been overcharged. One fender was primer gray, and the rest of the car was a dull blue dotted by rust. Maybe the guy hadn't even known about the GPS. It wasn't like there was an obvious equipment, just like Justin's Uncle Herm needed to set on the dashboard of his car. Just this sexy voice coming out of his radio speaker. Okay, Marianne, Justin said. How about you tell me the best way to get home from here? Not that he needed the GPS for that. Please state your home address, Marianne said, and define best and most scenic, shortest distance or quickest time. 376 Buggy Whip Lane. Sorry. That's a funny 376 Buggy Whip Lane. Justin said, and Baldwin. And of course, best means fastest. Calculating route, Marianne told him. A moment later, the voice resumed. Normally, the fastest route would have been via the 790 expressway, but there is an accident in the eastbound lane 4.3 miles beyond the Jefferson Avenue access road. How do you know that? Justin asked. From monitoring police band frequencies. A gasoline tanker has overturned and is leaking, so the traffic is being detoured off the express highway at Jefferson Avenue, then being routed through the town of Hadyport and sent via Goose Hill Road to Route 37 in Craigmont Unfortunately, the satellite feed shows there are no construction delays on Route 37 due to repaving crew working from 7 a.m. to 4 no, from 7 p.m. to 4 a.m. But never mind, Justin said. Even this late at night, when the traffic wouldn't be too heavy, he didn't want to do that. It was a good thing Mary Ann had turned on when she had. What do you recommend? Recalculating, Mary Ann said. Then she said, you can avoid the expressway entirely by turning right on the next intersection, Pinnacle Road. Estimated arrival at 376 Buggy Whip Lane is 11:42 p.m. Eastern Time. 25 minutes, 26 seconds. Pinnacle Road intersection approaching in 2.66 miles, approximately 2 minutes, 25 seconds away. Estimations made at your current speed of 66 miles per hour. The speed limit on this stretch of Church Street is posted at 55 miles per hour. Yes, mother, Justin grumbled. A speeding ticket indicates that the speed of 11 miles per hour over the posted limit would range in the cost. You aren't going to turn me in, are you? Justin whipped his foot off the accelerator. That would be worse than being caught on radar, having his own vehicle reported to the police. But Mary Ann said the Mary Ann system can listen in on the bands used by emergency vehicles, but will not contact them except when driver directs me to, or when catastrophe system failure of the car has occurred, indicating an accident. Okay, Justin said, putting his foot back on the accelerator. He made the right-hand turn on a Pinnacle Road with a screech of tires. Perhaps slowing down a bit might not have been a totally bad idea. You are now traveling southbound on Pinnacle Road. Recalculating, estimate arrival to 376 Buggy Whip Lane, 22 minutes 40 seconds. Next turn will be 5.8 miles, a left-hand turn eastbound onto Lincoln Road, Route 81. This is great, Justin said. He slowed down or he speeded up, simply to hear Mary Ann say, recalculating. Would you like to utilize the points of interest function Mary Ann offered? Holy crap, I've seen this episode in, was it Supernatural? Oh, I can almost tell where this story is about to go. How far we got going? Oh, yep, we got a couple more pages. Okay. We're in the town of Waverly, Justin said. There are no points of interest. You have crossed the border into the town of Stewart, Mary Ann corrected him. Whatever. All I see is farms. Gus Auto Transmission and Fresh Vegetable Market on the left-hand side of the road is another 167 yards. Sure enough, they passed Gus's through. Being almost 11:30 at night, the place was closed. Much good it would have done him, even if he had been looking for it. The chalkboard sign in front of the place advertised Halloween special, pumpkins 75% off. Just to see what would happen, he intentionally drove past Lincoln Road, even though Mary Ann reminded him of the turn 500 feet away. She then said, off route, recalculating. Rather than telling him to stop the car and turn around, she figured out a new route from the point where he currently was. A few more turns and Justin had absolutely no idea where they were. But that was okay, since Mary Ann obviously knew exactly. And then suddenly, out there in the middle of nowhere, the engine stopped and the car coasted to a standstill. Justin checked the gas gauge, but it indicated he still had a little more than a quarter of a tank. What's up? He asked. Mary Ann was just a GPS, but she was so interactive, so personable, whatever. He was not surprised when she turned out to be an engine diagnostician too. Vapor lock, she said. Vapor lock, Justin repeated while I was moving. Coupled with bad antifreeze. Bad antifreeze? Turn the key off, Marianne said. Wait 5 minutes, then turn the key in the ignition without pumping the accelerator. Recalculating, estimated arrival for 376 Buggy Whip Lane, 45 minutes, 14 minutes, 3 seconds. Justin muttered that he'd never heard of such a thing, but he did as Marianne instructed. The nightfall was perfectly quiet. Justin tried humming, but couldn't carry a tune, and he sounded bad even to himself. He had asked his parents for a new CD player for the car for Christmas, but he didn't think he'd be able to wait 2 months. Marianne announced, 4 more minutes till you can turn the engine back on. Hey, Justin said, how come you're still working when the engine is turned off? Backup generator. Can a backup generator keep the heat on? No, Marianne said. Not that the heat worked much better than the air conditioner. Justin leaned back in the seat and looked around. This was when he noticed that the car was sitting directly on some railroad tracks. Marianne, he said, did you happen to notice where we've stalled? Marianne said, CFX line on the Syracuse to Buffalo route. Syracuse to Buffalo route. But Justin said, hopefully not currently in use. Marianne said, 3 more minutes till you can turn the engine back on. Justin tried again. He asked, is this like one of those abandoned railroad lines? No, Marianne said. And just as she said it, Justin heard in the distance, but not too great distance, the wail of a train whistle. And there was also a bell. A mechanical arm lowered and came to rest on the roof of Justin's car. Marianne told him,
screw that, I'd get out.
the next train is scheduled to pass the spot in 2 minutes, 27 seconds. Justin hurriedly leaned forward and turned the key in the ignition. Marianne warned, if you turn the key, you will delay the release of the vapor lock for another 5 minutes. The train will pass here in 2 minutes, 14 seconds. But Justin said, but 2 more minutes till you can turn the engine back on. That will give you 12 seconds to start the car and drive it off the tracks. 12 seconds? Justin couldn't get his voice. He was supposed to whisper that. 12 seconds?
I'd get out of the car. I'd be like, nah, screw this car. It's a piece of junk anyways. I'm gonna let it get hit.
Justin couldn't get his voice above a whisper. That's cutting it awfully close. He looked on his left and thought he could see the light from the oncoming train. Surely it doesn't need to be exactly 5 minutes for me to turn the car back on. 5 minutes total, Marianne told him firmly. From now, 1 minute 44 seconds till you can turn the engine back on. Be certain the vapor lock is gone. And what if the vapor lock wasn't gone? What if the engine didn't start on its first try? Justin asked. How sure are you about that train? If you're off by just a couple of seconds, monitoring by satellite feed at current speed, the train will arrive at this spot in 1 minute 51 seconds. New York State regulations stipulate a train should reduce speed when approaching an intersection, so in theory you will have even more than 12 seconds. The train's headlights were shown in the distance. The whistle sounded again. Would the engineer be able to make out that there was an obstruction on the tracks? Justin's hand itched to turn the key. Could there really be that big difference between waiting the full 5 minutes and waiting only 4.5 minutes? 12 seconds. 12 seconds to start the engine and to get the car off the tracks. And if for some reason the car didn't start right away, he'd have time to try maybe once more. 12 seconds to watch the train crashing into him. 12 seconds to die. 1 more minute till you can turn the engine back on, Marianne announced. The train's whistle was blowing frantically, surely a sign that the engineer had spotted him. The train is decelerating, Marianne said, and sure enough, Justin could hear the screech of the brakes. 50 seconds till you can turn the engine back on. 65 seconds till the train reaches this spot. Justin knew that the train could not stop quickly. The more cars the engine was pulling, the more time the train would need to come to a standstill. Justin couldn't take it any longer. He fumbled for his seatbelt. Marianne said, "Don't panic. There is enough time to restart your engine to drive safely." Justin yanked the door handle but got caught in his seatbelt, which hadn't had time to retract fully yet. Marianne said, "If you leave the car, the train will collide with it and your vehicle will be destroyed. 36 seconds till you can turn the engine back on. 55 seconds till the train reaches this spot." Justin, disentangling himself from the seatbelt, and stumbled out of the car. Marianne said, "Outside of the vehicle, you are likely to be injured from flying debris. Return to the car. You may restart your engine. You may now restart your engine." She just said 36 seconds, and all of a sudden she was saying he could do it now. Marianne said, "The train is 50 seconds away. Return to the car." She was lying. In horror, Justin realized she was lying. She wanted him to get back in the car so he could drive off the tracks, even though that would put him in danger. She was saying it because there was no way for her to leave the car. For it to leave the car. The GPS wanted him to risk his life so it wouldn't get damaged. Tough luck. Despite her sexy voice, Justin began running. Marianne Bartholomew let her consciousness seep out of the car radio. Even though she could not be damaged by anything in the physical world, she watched him as the train smashed into the stalled car. As she had predicted, pieces went flying, but the boy was far enough away that none of them hit him. That was okay. She would have liked to kill him because he was a bad driver and a dangerous jerk, and it would have been a good deed for him to get permanently off the streets, but he hadn't been her primary target. The train stayed on the track, which was fine with her. She didn't have anything against trains, but she was delighted to see the wreckage of the car, for it had been this very car that had ended her life not 2 months ago. Of course, her first target had been the driver, that terrible college kid who had been drinking and driving and had not even known that he had run her over. Already dead, she watched him wake up the following morning and waited for him and to realize what he'd done. She waited for him to express his grief and